Hi, Class 8. Um, we're going to start a new story. It's a retrieved reformation, and it is on page 23 of your book, okay? So I thought what I would do is I will read, and I want you to follow along with me, okay? Make sure that your pen, sorry, it's not really in focus very well, but make sure that your pen follows along with the words in your book as you listen to me, okay? So this is about a story about a young man who comes out of jail, and he's about to go down sort of the same path in life that got him in jail in the first place, but something changes him. So this is what this story is about, okay? A retrieved reformation. Retrieved means to get back, and reformation means to change back into something or to change into something new, okay? All right. So Mr. James Valentine walked. I'm gonna have to do it this way, okay? Mr. James Valentine walked out of the prison into the sunshine, a free man. He directly went to the cafe of one Mike Dolan, who was alone behind the bar, and shook hands with him. "Sorry, we couldn't make it sooner, Jimmy, my boy," said Mike. "Feeling all right?" "Fine," said Jimmy. "Got my key?" He got his key and went upstairs, unlocking the door of a room at the rear. Everything was just as he had left it, even Ben Price's collar button that had been torn from the eminent detective's shirt when they had overpowered Jimmy to arrest him. Pulling out from the wall a folded bed, Jimmy slid back a panel in the wall and dragged out a dust-covered suitcase. He opened it and gazed fondly at the finest set of burglar's tools in the country. A burglar is a thief, okay? All right, so I'm going to turn the page here. Give me a second and continue on. Okay. So, I wonder if I press that might focus better. There we go. Okay, so in the weeks that followed the release of Valentine, there were neat jobs of safe burglary with no clue to the author. That meaning that, who had done it. The losses mounted and now were high enough to bring the matter up into Ben Price's class of work. Sorry. That's Dandy Jim Valentine's autograph. Dandy here is an adjective meaning describing a person as clever. Okay, that's Dandy Jim Valentine's autograph. He's resumed business. He's got the only clamps that can do such a clean job. Yes, I guess I want Mr. Valentine. One afternoon in Elmore City, Jimmy, looking like an athletic young senior just home from college, went down the broad footpath towards the Planters Hotel. A young lady, this is important, a young lady crossed the street, passed him at the corner, and entered a door over which was a sign, the Elmore Bank. Jimmy Valentine looked into her eyes, forgot what he was, and became another man. She lowered her eyes and colored slightly. Young men of Jimmy's style and looks were scarce in Elmore City. Scarce means not common. Jimmy collared a boy that was loafing on the steps of the bank and began to ask him questions about the town, feeding him coins at intervals. So every time he asked him a question, he'd give him another coin so he'd keep answering his questions. So by and by, that means after some time, the young lady came out and went her way. "Isn't that young lady Polly Simpson?" asked Jimmy. "No," said the boy. "She's Annabelle Adams. Her pa owns the bank." More coins filled the boy's pocket as Jimmy extracted information about Annabelle Adams. Jimmy went to the Planters Hotel, registered as, he's changing his name, Ralph D. Spencer, and engaged a room. He leaned on the desk and declared he had come to Elmore to look for a location to go into business. How was the shoe business now in town? Was there an opening? The clerk was impressed by Jimmy's clothes and manners, and yes, there ought to be an opening in the shoe line. Hoped Mr. Spencer would decide to locate in Elmore. He would find it a pleasant town to live in, and the people were very sociable. Mr. Ralph D. Spencer remained and prospered. He opened a shoe store and secured a good run of trade. Socially, he was a success and made friends, and he accomplished the wish of his heart. He met Miss Annabel Adams and became more and more captivated by her charms. At the end of the year, the situation of Mr. Ralph Spencer was this: he had won the respect of the community. His shoe store was flourishing, and he and Annabel were engaged to be married in 2 weeks. Well, one day, Jimmy sat down in his room and wrote this letter, which he mailed to the safe address of one of his old friends. And the letter reads, "Dear old pal, be at Sullivan's place in Little Rock next Wednesday night at 9 o'clock. I want to make you a present of my kit of tools. Billy, I've quit the old business a year ago. It's the only life, the straight one. Be sure to be at Sully's, for I must see you. I'll bring along the tools with me. Your old friend, Jimmy." Well, soon, sorry about this, I'll move this out of the way. Okay. Soon, Ben Price arrived unobtrusively into Elmore. He lounged about the town in his quiet way until he found out what he wanted to know. "Going to marry the banker's daughter, are you, Jimmy?" said Ben to himself softly. "Well, I don't know." Next morning, quite a family party went downtown together. Mr. Adams, Annabel, Jimmy, and Annabel's married sister with her 2 little girls, aged 5 and 9. They came by the hotel where Jimmy still boarded. He ran up to his room and brought along his suitcase. Jimmy was going to Little Rock to return some goods. Then they went on to the bank. The Elmore Bank had just put in a new safe and vault. Mr. Adams was very proud of it and explained its workings to Mr. Spencer, who showed a courteous but not too intelligent interest. The 2 children, Mary and Agatha, were delighted by the shining metal and funny clock and knobs. Ben Price sauntered in and leaned on his elbow, looking casually inside. He told the teller that he didn't want anything. He was just waiting for a man he knew. Suddenly there was a scream from the woman and a commotion, unperceived by the elders. May, the 9-year-old girl, in a spirit of play, had shut Agatha in the vault. Oh no. Well, the old banker sprang to the handle and tugged at it for a moment. "The door can't be opened," he groaned. "The clock hasn't been wound, nor the combination set." Agatha's mother screamed again hysterically. "There isn't a man nearer than Little Rock who can open that door," said Mr. Adams in a shaky voice. "My God! Spencer, what shall we do? That child, she can't stand it long in there. There isn't enough air, and besides, she'll go into convulsions from fright." Agatha's mother, frantic now, beat the door of the vault with her hands. Somebody wildly suggested dynamite. Annabel turned to Jimmy, her large eyes full of anguish, but not yet despairing. To a woman, nothing seems quite impossible to the powers of the man she worships. "Can't you do something, Ralph? Try, won't you?" He looked at her with a queer, soft smile on his lips and in his keen eyes. "Annabel," he said, "give me that rose you're wearing, will you?" She unpinned the bud and placed it in his hand, and Jimmy stuffed it into his vest pocket, threw off his coat, and pulled up the shirt sleeves. With that act, Ralph D. Spencer passed away, and Jimmy Valentine took his place. This is an important line. "Get away from the door, all of you," he commented shortly. He set his suitcase on the table and opened it out flat, and from that time on he seemed to be unconscious of the presence of anyone else. He laid out the shining, queer implements swiftly and orderly, whistling softly to himself as he always did when at work. In deep silence and immovable, the others watched him as if under a spell. In a minute, Jimmy's pet drill was biting smoothly into the steel door. In 10 minutes, breaking his own burglarious record, he threw back the bolts and opened the door. Agatha almost collapsed, but safe was gathered into her mother's arms. Jimmy Valentine put on his coat and walked towards the front door, and as he went, he thought he heard a faraway voice that he once knew call, "Ralph!" but he never listened. At the door, a big man stood, somewhat in his way. "Hello, Ben," said Jimmy, still with his strange smile. "Got around at last, have you? Well, let's go. I don't know that it makes much difference now." "Guess you're mistaken, Mr. Spencer," he said. "Don't believe I recognize you." And Ben Price turned and strolled down the street. Okay, so listen to that, and then I'm going to give you a few questions and things to work on with this story. Okay?